Hi, I'm Gene Marrano. Our guests on the interview today are two major players on Roanoke's artistic landscape. One is working to turn around the Taubman Museum of Art, drawing it closer to the community, while the other has helped bring a better mix of live music to the Valley. Our guests are David Mickenberg, Executive Director of the Taubman Museum of Art, and promoter Gary Jackson from Kirk Avenue Music Hall. After spending a first year in the background wrapping his arms around the problem, mainly how to keep the Taubman Museum of Art afloat, Executive Director David Mickenberg had his public debut of sorts at a town hall meeting last fall, talking about how the two-year-old art museum would work differently with the public and local artists in the future. Admission prices will be lowered as well, helping to make the Taubman more family-friendly. Mickenberg was appointed to the position of Executive Director at the Taubman in September 2009. He replaced George Ann Bingham, who oversaw the fundraising needed for the $66 million and somewhat controversial Taubman building, which allowed the former Art Museum of Western Virginia to vacate its previous home at Center in the Square. Mickenberg had been the director of the Davis Museum and Cultural Center at Wellesley College before that, where he oversaw a capital campaign and programs that increased attendance figures significantly. He had also been a director at art museums on the Northwestern University campus in Chicago and in Oklahoma. An art history major at Colgate, and then at the master's level at Wisconsin-Milwaukee, David Mickenberg has made significant changes over the past few years, changes that he hopes will keep the Taubman Museum of Art on more solid footing. David Mickenberg, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, it's a pleasure.
At a town hall meeting last fall, when you laid out plans for the Taubman's future, you sort of challenged people. You asked them what they were going to do, what they were going to do to help the museum. And what have you seen in the coming months, the recent months, that people have been rallying around the Taubman, David? Are they coming out more? Are they increasing memberships, things like that, donations?
Well, memberships for the first time in a long time have been on the upswing, which is great. We also, I think the best way to answer that is we had the most successful end-of-the-year campaign in the 60-year history of the museum. We brought in approximately $280,000.
Mail-in campaign?
Yeah, it was just an end-of-the-year annual fund solicitation drive. And we saw a lot of people come back, a lot of new people come on board. We saw a lot of people increase their contributions to the museum. So all in all, we've been really happy. But more than that, I think press has changed since the town hall meeting. People's attitudes have changed since the town hall meeting. I think there's a recognition that, you know, we're a little beyond some of the problems of the past. Doesn't mean to say we're not challenged, we are. Doesn't mean to say the next 5 years isn't going to be difficult, it will be.
Right.
But it does mean to say that I think that attitudes have changed. A lot of the community-based efforts that the museum has been doing have paid off in spades. So the Rise Up Roanoke project,
which was Charlie Brower's project, installation with ladders.
With ladders, there were 300 people throughout the community who lent ladders. I was about to say donated, but they're all getting them back.
Right. Make people nervous.
Right. We received a letter from a 9-year-old. In Vinton, asking us to do a project. She's suggesting an exhibition and a project with kids throughout the city. You'll be hearing more about that next week when it breaks in the press, but there are hundreds of kids involved in that project of doing art and having it shown at the museum, and their families joining the museum, participating in all the festivities that relates to that. So I think we're off and running in a good direction.
You mentioned that we mentioned the Charlie Brower exhibit, which may or may not be still running when this airs, but art on the bottom floor. And that was one of the questions people had asked you before the town hall meeting. Why is there no art when you come in? Right. And you were saying it really has to do with floodplain and insurance issues. You cannot have the permanent collection on the bottom floor. Right.
The permanent collection has to be in a safe and secure location. It has to be in a location where temperature and humidity is consistent. It has to be in a location where light levels are below a certain level. And it has to be in an environment that won't flood. And is not on a floodplain. So for that reason alone, the permanent collection can't be seen on the first floor. There's also another reason which we've recently sort of discovered, and that has a lot to do with sound-absorbing materials. So if you look at the seam above the banister going up the stairs, that wall is actually made of marble dust, which was a new product at the time that it was employed at the museum. And it was employed simply because it's great for sound-absorbing qualities. And given the marble floors, that was necessary.
Sure.
And so, but you can't you can't do anything to it, you can't paint it, you can't nail into it. It will stay forever the way it is. So anything that relates to murals on that floor, anything that relates to artwork that might be hanging in that area, anything that might be site-specific can't happen in that location. So we're working around all those requirements. So Charlie Brower's piece is really the first one of several that you're going to be seeing there. We're looking at another artist to commission works that hang from the ceiling. So I think that over the course of the next couple of years, you'll see more and more artwork in the lobby, which is good, because I think when you walk into the museum, as a museum, you should see artwork.
Right, right. You came aboard about a year and a half ago now, David. I know you, one of the first things you did was you cut the overhead, you eliminated the number of full-time positions. Were original attendance projections just too optimistic, do you think, for a new museum?
I think original attendance projections were wildly, outrageously optimistic and unrealistic in nature. So, and didn't take into account both the demographics of this community as well as how museums throughout the Southeast are doing. So I think it was just bad data.
And I know you were saying at the town hall meeting that despite the much lower attendance at this, the Taubman is still actually one of the more highly attended museums in the Southeast.
Right. We had 85,000 people that attended the Taubman, and that includes people who paid at the front desk, people who were members, people who came back multiple times.
Was that in 2010?
2010.
2010, okay.
And it includes individuals who were tourists, it includes people who came for special events, it includes everybody who came into the Taubman. At 85,000 people, we are the second or third highest attended museum in the Southeast. That doesn't include the High Museum of Art or the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, which are in broader, much more
to the high last month.
Area.
Great museum.
But I think it is. I think we are an extraordinarily well attended. That means that almost at 85,000 people, that means that 95% of the populace in Roanoke has come to the museum. That's an amazing statistic. There aren't very many museums who can celebrate having 85,000 people come through their doors.
Is there a way to get people that are non-Roanokers, David, to get off of 81 or off of 581 as they're on their way to the beach or south? Is there a way to get them to the Taubman?
Well, I think 10% of our audience comes off of 81 and off of 95 specifically to come see the Taubman. That's a statistic that has been raised by just asking people who come through the museum, why they're there, where they come from. That's a zip code analysis in a sense. So I think people do that. I think people attend the Taubman on family days, they attend the Taubman on weekends, they attend the Taubman on Friday nights, they attend the Taubman at the times when families have leisure time, and at the time when families have educational time. And so I think we're doing really well. The trouble that we've had is we keep running up against the statistics that were broadcast when we first opened, and those are pretty unfortunate. I think if we're going to the original statistics that said that we can get 250,000 people to the Taubman, I think that the question is not can we get people off of 581. People drive down 581 to go to a specific location. I think the question is how does the Taubman enhance the number of families that are coming on weekends? How can we improve or increase the number of people coming on Sundays and on Saturdays? What kind of programming enhances the visitor experience, enhances a multiple level experience that people can spend several hours at the museum over a course of several days? And I think that our programming is designed to bring people in at key points during the week. I think we will always have low attendance during the week. We will have high attendance during lunchtime, and the new proprietor of the cafe is doing great. He's doubled attendance in the cafe. In the
former Nora's Cafe, right?
Right. But I think that an increase in educational opportunities, an increase in entertainment opportunities, an increase in programming that's multidisciplinary by nature, and by listening to the community as to what the community wants to have in the Taubman is the way to increase traffic in the building.
Sounds good. We're going to take a quick break. Our guest is David Mickenberg from the Taubman Museum of Art. This is The Interview. I'm Gene Marrano. We'll be right back.